Namaskar. My name is Holly Kostora and I'm a certified Iyengar yoga teacher, and today we're learning and loving inversions, part 1, which is devoted to Salamba Sarvangasana and Halasana, and in that order because that is the order in which they're introduced in both Light on Yoga and Yoga a Gem for Women. Okay, and we're going to follow the technique offered for beginners in those texts as well. Additionally, the same technique is taught in the preliminary course, Yoga in Action, a preliminary course by B.K. Iyengar and Gita Iyengar. Although in basic guidelines for teachers of yoga, the order of learning the inversions is to learn Ardha Halasana, then Halasana, and then Salamba Sarvangasana. So Guruji says in Light on Yoga that one should learn Ardha Halasana and Halasana first before Salamba Sarvangasana because it helps to prepare the body and the mind for the rush of blood, that sort of rushing, pounding feeling that can happen when you first go right up to Salamba Sarvangasana. Okay? So we're going to start with one of the preparations for Salamba, for all the inversions, actually. And so there's 2 of those preparations. The first one is to take 2 rolled blankets, and these are not thickly rolled blankets, they're thinly rolled blankets. I take them as they would be placed for shoulder stand and rolling them up the, not the long and narrow way, but the short way, placing the seam side of the fold down on the floor. I have a blanket for my head. These blankets are going to be placed in a very specific location, and that is, so if this is the inner chest, this is the outer chest, and this is my inner upper arm, right? So we're going to place the blanket right here in this area between the outer chest and the inner upper arm. The palms will be down on the floor, the arms will be in sort of like a goalpost position, okay? And if you have a lot of mobility in your lower spine, if there's weakness in the abdominal region or tightness in the front of the hips, you can also place a blanket folded the long and narrow way just across the navel region, because what's behind that navel region is the lower back region, and placing the blanket there can help to move the abdominal contents back towards the front of the spine, which will help lengthen the lower spinal muscles and help move the the pelvis and the back ribs away from each other, okay? So I'm taking the blankets forward so that my feet won't touch the wall, and I'm placing myself down in prone shavasana, okay? Turning the backs of the thighs out and away from each other, from the inside out, and again lifting the navel region up so that the lower back can elongate, which will help move the tailbone in and take the buttocks towards the heels, okay? And I want you to see how I'm sort of leaning to the left and taking my right upper arm towards my elbow, and then bringing my upper arm down onto the blanket. So first I'm bringing the blanket in, then I'm taking my upper arm out, and then lowering my arm down. And I have the blanket on the forehead and the eyebrows so that my nose has space and I can breathe.
I'm not taking my chin in towards the chest. My head is in a Tadasana position. Okay, now I'm going to roll to the little finger side of my hand. Move the base of the thumb away from the inner wrist, and then keep the base of the thumb moving away from the middle of the wrist, and stretch the base of the thumb towards the tip of the thumb as I bring the base of the thumb and then the thumb itself down to the floor. Now I want to see that my elbows are in line with my armpits. They're not lower or higher. And also now, so that's the doing. And now I want to feel that where the trapezius are, so I can roll the shoulders back, not forward into the blankets, but back towards the wall behind me. And then get a sense for whether the sides of the trunk are lifting up in the direction of the head. So adjust the sides of the trunk so they're moving up in the direction of the head. Move the base of move the neck away from the upper back, and the crown of the head towards the wall on the other side of the room. And now I can feel that the left upper arm bone, the top of the upper arm bone, is gripped in towards the outer side of my chest. So I'm moving the humerus away from the outer corner of the chest, away from the shoulder area, and towards the elbow region. So that I have both outer corners of the chest can move away from the inner corners of the chest. The part of the chest that's near the shoulders can move away from the part on either side of the body, can move away from the part of the chest that's closest to the sternum. So that is opening the chest. And I'm also learning that my left upper arm is held more tightly against my chest than the right side. Okay, and then I'll turn the upper arms from the inside out and move the trapezius and the outer shoulder blades down, and then the outer shoulder blades not just down, but once the top part of the outer shoulder blade moves towards the bottom part, then the tips of the shoulder blades move in at the bottom, but the top are spreading out. And then to come up, bring my hands in, bend my knees, sit back on my heels. Okay, the second warm-up, so to speak, was what my colleague called a mini Set Dubanda. And there's going to be a rolled blanket to support the curve, the natural curve in the cervical spine. Okay, the shoulders will not go to the floor. They won't go all the way to the floor. And then you can, if you need to, place a support underneath your heels. So that's either a rolled blanket or blocks. So it's sort of like a Set Dubanda Sarvangasana, but the shoulders aren't on the floor and there's no Jalandhara Bandha, okay? So I'm going to start so that my head is on the bolster, and then hold the sides of the mat. Now I'm going back to the pose that I just practiced, that preparation, the Prana Shavasana, and moving the
top of the upper arm bones away from the outer corners of the chest so that the inner corners of the chest can move towards the outer corners of the chest. Then I turn the upper arms from the inside out. Okay, and then from here I'm going to slide back and see that that rolled blanket is supporting the cervical spine. The top of the back of the head is going to be down on the floor, and then from here I'm stretching my right leg out. I need to move the bolster back slightly, stretching my right leg out, and then bringing the left leg out to meet it. So really what I have the blanket there for in the neck is to feel when I start to collapse, when the neck, the front of the neck starts to, those vertebral bodies on the anterior cervical spine start to drop back, and then the back starts to flatten out, so I don't want that, right? I want to bring the neck and the head back behind the chest. Back behind the chest, and that's going to require some release in the upper abdomen. So the upper abdomen moving towards the lower abdomen, but also the bottom ribs, middle ribs, upper ribs spreading laterally out to the sides. And the arms are not out at 90-degree angles to the torso, they're just halfway between Tadasana and Utthita Hastasana. And again, I'm feeling how that left upper arm wants to sort of slip forward past my trunk and then inward towards the center of the chest, and I'm going to take it laterally out to the side so I can bring it onto the side of my body. So it's not going forward and inward, it's going outward and backward in the socket. Okay, and then from here I bend my knees, and I'm just going to lift up because I'm stuck on my hair a little bit. Okay, and then you can take this blanket out and slide back, or you can turn to your side to come up. Okay, so those are the two preparations for our asana practice.